Like any other night, I want to reward myself for a hard day of studying of Spanish with a little ice cream flavored the week. But with the shop closed and mindless rhythms coming from the church, I come to the same conclusion as the night of my last mother's chat. Evangelicals have taken over the town, allowing the RMIans to either choose the kind of loud mass or the really, really loud mass that takes place once a month and goes all night, not ending until 7 in the morning. The latest religion to the region came with the last influence and power: money. No more are swords and oppression needed for religious servitude. Just money for the best looking building in town, the church. The church in RMI has concrete walls and a steel frame to support a roof, attributes no other structure in town can claim. I first heard the Mass's noise my second week in RMI, and I say noise because from my hammock in the community center, that's all it sounds like. It's a drone not of traffic, but of poorly played music to an insufferable rhythm. Each night that it pulsates, I instantly reach for my iPod and solace in another noise, notably Ashley Simpson. Even then, I sit in bouts of memorization while La La and whatever unrecognizable chant emitting from the church conflict in my ears, making studying a hopeless proposition. Tonight is no different. While I stand dumbfounded by my inability to acquire ice cream, mesmerizing clangs and chants from the church are loud enough to require a raised voice when Alicia, mother number 2, approaches from the road. One of her children, it looks like Damien, runs in circles around her legs. "Juan, come in," she asks. I'm not caught off guard, just uncertain about what's going on inside those walls. I don't know, I answer uncertainly. But she waves her hand one more time and I give in. The door frame has no door, allowing me to take in the interior of the church slowly. The pews are benches, 15 feet long and 6 deep, lining the outer walls, leaving a pathway to the front. Consistent with human nature, the back rows are more filled than the front. Some stand to sing, some stay sat, but all clap along to the noise being produced by a keyboard, 2 singers, 2 timp drums, and the piece of ribbed metal being scraped with spoons. The parishioners are mostly elders, and it's obvious the youngsters attending are being held against their will. I can attest to such torture. The band is lined up against the left wall, giving the stage and podium plenty of room. Driving the Mass is mother number 1, eyes closed and hands raised to receive whatever might be coming from the heavens or the roof. The cadence of the song is simple. The beat stays the same. Mother number 1 chants a 2-line verse, and the backup singers repeat. Each song is a grueling 15 minutes. A light blue piece of fabric is placed on the front of the podium, and a larger chunk is hanging behind the podium. The walls rise to about 12 feet, leaving 5 feet of space between the roof for airflow, which is needed on a muggy night such as this. I'm respectable, wearing jeans and one of my button-ups, but my clothes are not the reason the parishioners' eyes have turned to me, smiles forming across their round faces. It's me in general, the Gringo, the outsider, and I've taken an interest in a Mass, one of the most important events that take place in RMI. Their weighty eyes, along with the fact that I haven't been in a church in some time, combine to press sweat from my pores. My consistent Mass-going days ended after my confirmation from the Catholic Church. Throughout my senior year of high school, Sunday evening confirmation classes were my last religious favor to my Catholic mother, and were torture. Every class our teachers would proclaim, "If you aren't here for you, and only doing this because your parents want you to, feel free to leave. No hard feelings." Of course, all of us were there for our parents, making us more pent up than a Breakfast Club Ali Sheedy. In college, I found a tinge of hypocrisy in those I saw doing ungodly things on Saturday nights, asking for forgiveness during the Sunday Mass every week. Was I invited to attend church with them? All the time, and all but once I politely declined. After sitting in that Mass and looking around at all the weekly sin party participants, myself included, I decided the attending of church was not for me. Yes, we're all sinners, but her? I mean, she did some really messed up stuff in the basement on Friday. And him? Yeah, I'm talking about you. That keg didn't steal itself last night. And me? Yeah, me, you self-righteous prick with all your disregard for the feelings of the opposite sex. The only reason St. Al's Church has never burned down with all the heat generated by uncomfortable co-eds is the blanket of Catholic guilt hovering high above the organ pipes, smothering the flames. Eyes weren't fallen in prayer, but shame. And the ones that weren't staring at their clasped hands, those eyes belong to the worst of the lot, the ones with no conscience. Plus, the Catholic Mass is excruciatingly boring. There are plenty of other things I can think of doing on a Sunday night that are much more fun than going to church, like throwing a frisbee. That's actually pretty fun all the time. So, it's with this disposition that I position myself firmly in the back right row, between Blanco, a riverbud, and a younger chap that must be his younger brother. In front are two teenage girls busy with their cell phones. At least in my days, I got creative with kill time, army crawling under the pews or drawing. But texting? Alicia hauls Damian back into their row on the left side where his older sister instantly grabs him into her lap. The girls start giggling in front of me, so vainly I think that this laughter can only be caused by my presence. It becomes obvious that I should clap if I want to fit in, and I do. So I do. The beat is the same for every song, so for my own sake I mix it up with an offbeat every once in a while. The music and clapping last for an hour before Mama number 1 surrenders the stage with a kiss to her husband, the pastor, who also scoops my ice cream from time to time. Sometimes he gives me extra. The large piece of light blue cloth now takes on a new role in the proceedings, matching perfectly with the shirt of the pastor, creating an illusion where his head stands alone with no body for support. Tirelessly, the head of the pastor hovers back and forth across the stage, rhythmically preaching to his clergy. What bits and pieces I could make out seem to be along the lines of, "We are all brothers, and there is only one God." Or maybe it's, "God is our only brother." Nah, that seems too exclusive. Pretty standard stuff. Even the poo-poo platter of nightly insects are taking in the sermon, forming buzzing halos around the church's lights. Now that the singing has ended, I'm enjoying myself more. To be able to sit, zone out, and let the Spanish rhetoric ooze into me is a much better activity than memorizing vocabulary alone in my treehouse. Blanco taps my watch and looks at me with his wide eyes. He answers with just a smile. I unlatch my watch and give it to him, pressing what buttons it has to show him all the ways he can play with it. My attention is instantly diverted by the scratching of my jeans by Blanco's brother, and exactly like his elder, he's doing this with a childish grin. Jamming his thumbnail into the seams by my knee, he examines the quality of my worn Levi's. "Blue pants," I say for my own good it seems, as my jeanless statement gets no response from my tailor. The boys seem content with the activities that I'm providing. A watch to play with and mysterious articles of clothing. A heel kicks my right shoe, and I look up to lock eyes with one of the 17-year-old girls in front of me. She gives me a "you should be so lucky" look, and wheels back around, producing a giggle from her partner. The last thing I wanted to be was a distraction during the service, but it seems even entrenched in the back pew, my back pressed tightly against the wall, attention will find me. From here on out, my eyes are staying on the front. Shushing the boys, I gesture for them to pay attention. The rhetoric is picking up, and the pastor follows his aggressive arm motions to the floor of the church. In front of the podium, his voice rises, and his clergy starts answering him with the amens and single claps of their hands. People begin to stand and sway, arms outstretched. The insects pick up their pace as well, lapping the two large lights. We're not to the point of a tornado touching down or anything like that, but the energy level has definitely been lifted. Parishioners, specifically the elder women, randomly make their way to the front, standing in a half circle around the pastor. All this must be standard because the boys' attention never wavers from their activities. The pastor's cadence grows in volume and aggressiveness, his tone asking the women to follow him to higher theater. Chants from those still among the benches are supplying the pastor with a flat, audible backdrop for his proclamations that are now very aggressive in tone. The women up front rock and sway with his inflections, eyes closed. Some begin speaking in tongues, giving in to a compelling force. Feeling nervous in anticipation of something grand, my senses are perked. The pastor starts on his right, grabbing the first woman's head. Even from the back, I can see the tensing of his hand and the wrinkles on her forehead. 2 commands come from his mouth, and slowly she kneels to the floor of the church, quivering once on the ground. It is the same for each woman, the final being Alicia, who smiles her way to the ground. I'm intrigued and wonder if I could ever completely give my body and mind to create such an abnormal experience. Once all the women are floored, the pith of the service instantly drops. Those whom are standing from the benches sit down as casually as if they answered a question in class. The women on the ground emerge from their stupor, shaking their heads like the hypnotist at the fair finally released them from his command. With their awakenings, the Mass is over. The pastor says the standard "Go in peace" bit, and the filtering out begins. I shuffle my way to the door, slowly so I don't step on Blanco, and run into Alicia, who has now amazed me with how quickly she's gone from drunken fetal position on the ground to perky and alert. She grabs my hand and shakes it, bowing her head. She becomes the front of a mock receiving line, and I end up shaking hands or hugging nearly every elder member of the congregation, and the pastor too, of course. It is obvious they are very happy that I participated in the night's Mass, even if participating just meant attending. Their gesture makes me feel honored, and my left hand never leaves my heart while my right does the shaking. Unexpectedly, I hear a voice speaking English. "Hey, I'm Michael." Michael is 40-ish, glassed, lightly bearded, and is cupping a Bible in his left hand. "Hi. John," I say. "Where were you sitting? Observing. Where were you?" "I like to sit in the back left," he answers. "You know, stay out of the way." "Yeah, me too," I reply. "I was over here," and I motion with a thumb over my shoulder to my former bench. "I haven't seen you around town. What are you doing in Panama?" I ask. "I've been with my parents here a little over 15 years. They're missionaries," he says. "We built this church and are just finishing another down the road, just past Santa Fe. You should come check it out." I save Michael my poor explanation of how I'm not much a churchgoer these days, instead telling him of how I don't find myself heading east much. "Well," he replies, "should you want to come, just let me know." And he hands me a card. The title of the company on the card is his full name, followed by Real Estate Consulting. "Don't worry about this," he says. "This is just something I'm kind of working on. But my numbers are on there, so give me a call if you ever want to come down. There's a great hiking trail that people like to take up to the top of a nearby mountain." "Sounds nice," I say, slightly. "You've done it?" "Oh no, but people do." "Oh, all right. Thanks, Michael. You might hear from me about that hiking trail." We part ways, and I walk out of the empty door frame, trying not to shake my head until out of view. I see a blue go by the shop and realize that Blanco still has my watch. "Blanco, I need my thing, you know." Blanco offers no fight, handing it back to me. "Thank you. Good night," I tell him. "Good night, Chris," he says. "Blanco, my name is Juan." "I know, Gringo." Snickering, I reply, "Thanks, Indian. See you I will tomorrow." Me with his wide eyes. Quietly, I ask him, "What's up?"